What's up, everybody? All right. So, welcome to my new live stream I do every Monday called Fractured Society, where we're talking about how fractured the society is and different ways it's fractured. Not just like society, but the culture and the way we think about things. And so, of course, I'm gonna push some hot buttons a little bit. You know what I mean? So today, what we're gonna be talking about, goddamn, today what we're gonna be talking about is literally why voting doesn't work, and also a in-depth critique of identity politics, of PC politics, right? I hope everybody's doing well. Sound off in the chat if you are there and ready for this stream, because we about to get it. So I will be trying to have guests at certain points. Right now I don't have no guests. This first one, so see if I can move this around a little bit. I want to reduce my big head, but I don't think it'll let me. It's not gonna let me do it. All right, well, y'all stuck with my big head this time. I'll figure a way to do it in the future. But all right, so basically what fractured society is gonna be from this point forward is talking about the different fractures within society. Talking about hot button issues that people don't want to see with nuance, because we see a lot of times echo chambers, for example. And I'm trying to break down those echo chambers and also offer critiques of like modernly thought things, like, for example, voting. So also I want to ask if you fuck with this, subscribe to this channel, hit that like button, leave a comment, all that good stuff, because it helps get somewhere in the algorithm, though I've been posting a lot because I've been demonetized temporarily. So yeah. But let's just go ahead and jump into it. Voting does not work. Voting is damaging to the movement. And you're probably thinking, like, how the hell is voting damaging to the movement? Okay, let me break this down too. The first part of this, half of the stream, is going to be me breaking it down, and then the second part of it is going to be responding to all the comments and interactions and answering questions and things like that. You know what I mean? I just want to do a certain way. I'm trying to do a little structured way that I haven't done before. So yeah. But one thing I want to point out about politicians specifically, there's been a running joke, right? A running joke that politicians are snakes and can't be trusted for like hundreds of years. And yet we still find ourselves going into these electoral politics, right? We still find ourselves voting for these politicians who clearly only interest is capitalism. The only interest that they really have is how to maintain the system that exists within right now. So even if they're black, right, they're still going to uphold the system of white supremacy, right? Even if they're women, they're going to uphold patriarchy. And not to mention that even in general society, we still do that, right? Like nobody's above these critiques or pushing forward these oppressive systems. Even the people who are marginalized by it will often push forward the oppressive system themselves, as we know. But then there's this idea of this tokenization that happens where we can find a specific person to be the good politician. But I don't know about small towns. Now, I'm not from a small town. I'm from Seattle. It's a big city, right? But when it comes to the big cities, when it comes to the port cities and stuff like that, they don't leave it up to us to be able to put somebody in place that will serve our interests. What they do instead is they hand pluck people, and they find people that usually are very connected to the nonprofit industrial complex or some other community organization that can be bought and sold, right? And they won't allow you into those spaces without being able to raise certain amounts of funds and win over certain people, certain key holders that hold keys of power. And we've seen this. Our ancestors saw this. Our ancestors were making like jokes about these crooked rat ass politicians all the time from like the 1800s, 1700s. And yet we still follow this trend of repeating these same patterns, of believing that if we keep doing this, somehow we'll have a different result. And I'm going to tell you, you're not going to get a different result, because these politicians aren't really here to serve us, to be a voice, our voice to the wealthy, our voice to the powerful, but the other way around. These politicians sit here to be the voice of the powerful. To be the voice of the powerful to the working class, to the proletariat. and to make sure that their agendas are pushed forward, while convincing us that the politicians actually serve our interests. I got a little notes here, so pardon me while I look at them real quick. When it comes to laws and legislations, right, and then changing cultural reality, we got to ask ourselves, does that actually work, right? A lot of people talk about we got to vote these laws through. And I'd argue that overall, and I'm not saying there's never exceptions, because there's definitely exceptions always, right? But overall, the reality is that voting laws into effect does zero to affect change. What affects change is the direct actions and the movements of the people that they put forward. The strikes, the boycotts, the protests, the demos, the things I can't say because it violates TOS. You know what I mean? Okay, no. I can say it because I'm not advocating it, okay? I'm not saying go riot, y'all, but the riots, the uprisings of 2020, those things influence more the outcome of our current society's direction, much more than any voting will ever do, right? Because did we see all the laws that got passed around trying to hold cops accountable? Did we see them held accountable because of those laws? Or did we see them held accountable because a mass of people across the nation tore some stuff up? Be honest with me. What do you think really played that role? I mean, and if you're saying voting and like laws, come on, that's cap. Let's be real. Because we didn't see any of them get prosecuted no matter what laws we passed until after the uprising. Once the fear of the people were put into the politicians, into the leaders of this country, then we saw a reaction. Then we saw, oh, these cops are going to start getting charged for the crimes they commit. But before that, nah, because there's no fear of consequence. And the thing is, for the elite, for the politicians, for the rich, for the wealthy, for the police, the only consequence will come from the people, right? And so that's the only time when you see the government do what they're supposed to do, right? They're supposed to charge these crooked police, right? Now, be clear. Even in the case of police, I don't support the prison industrial complex. I'm not for celebrating people's incarcerations, no matter what. Not even the ops, bro. Like, just no. But I want to point out what it took for us to see that change, though, for us to see any type of accountability. And it's still a joke. It's still just scapegoating. Like, let me scapegoat this one cop so we can save the rest of them type shit. You know what I mean? Then there's this question that people always bring up, right? Why they try to stop us from voting if voting doesn't have an impact? And what I'll say is what they were really trying to stop a lot, specifically with Black folks, when it comes to voting, is us having agency within the system, not because of the vote, but being able to have a voice within it, being able to own land, being able to have capital and have that voice be heard as a part of the U.S. government. And now that we've reached that point, they've figured out how to assimilate people into the system of white supremacy, assimilate people into capitalism. So it's just mute and void. And the people who they do try to stop vote are like the convicts and stuff. But in the end of the day, my question comes is, do those things, even if we do get our vote, right? Even if we get all the votes in, do those really change the direction of this nation? Do you really think that we're in a better position now with Biden than Trump? And if you do, please break down how. Because deportations got worse, or white supremacy got worse, incarceration is getting worse. Like, how? And the thing is, when we look at the material circumstances, I'll argue that we don't see a benefit from a change of president or even local politicians. We see benefit from the action that people take. Now, don't get me wrong. If you feel like voting checking a box and sending it back in somehow is beneficial, fine, do that. I mean, I don't think you're correct, but do that. But the problem that gets in is that's not all people do. I hear a lot of times this argument that people can do multiple things, right? We can both be in the streets and have radical politics and push forward and push forward voting and revolutionary movements at the same time. But in action, that is not how it pounds out. Let me actually check to make sure, because I've been like looking at my notes. Let me make sure y'all hear me, right? Okay, yeah, y'all hear me. Good. Just had to double check. All right, boom. The problem is when people say like we can vote our way and we can do both vote and movement, that's not what happens, right? People don't just check the box. People run whole campaigns for these Democrats who are right wingers, who aren't even close to on our side. And when we talk about Bernie, like at best, Bernie was a centrist. Like, and at this point, he's a right winger, just like the rest, right? So when we see the situation, we don't have people checking the box and moving on. We have people divesting from the movements that were making grounds to then focus on keeping the next president that they don't want out of office, or keeping the next mayor out of office, right? Instead of putting pressure on whoever sits there through the power of the people to get the things we need, right? To make a difference inside our community. And another big critique about voting is it views yourself from inside the system, from, to a degree, collaborating with the system. And I think that's where I have to push back against, because I think when we really make moves, it's not from collaborating, but being in direct opposition to, applying pressure and watching them cave to the pressure. Because remember, these politicians, they have addresses. These corporate assholes, they have addresses. We can go give them a visit at their church. You know, we can embarrass them at their church. We can, a lot of things. I'm not advocating violence. I'm not advocating violence. I would never do that or to violate TOS. So what about voting really comes in relevant, I guess, for me, is the question. And it really just doesn't. It makes a false, it's like manufacturing consent. You know what I mean? It makes it seem like we are consenting to the systems and the way they function, right? It makes it seem as if, no, it not even seems, we are consenting at that point. I always find it ironic. A lot of times people are like, it's your fault because you didn't vote. And I'm like, no, it's your fault because you did. Because when you vote, you're consenting to participate within the system of capitalism. Now, I get like, okay, but you're just voting to reduce whatever. But that is like functionally what you're doing. You know what I mean? It gives the facade that we have confidence within the system versus a vote of no confidence. Now, if you were to say write in nobody or something, which I suggest we do for this next 2024 election, write in nobody, okay, do that. But to run a full campaigns and push to get these policies or these politicians out of office and spend that energy, when we can put the energy onto making a difference in our actual communities and on the ground, it's counterproductive. It's very counterproductive. And over and over again, as someone who's organized for years on the ground, what we see is the movements get decimated by people going out of the movement and into the electoral politics, right? There'll be things that we're working on that will just get dropped because all these people just left and started working on these campaigns. And so the thing that gets me is not like I said, the actual checking the box, but the energy we put in as like people who call themselves leftists. Well, I don't really call myself a leftist, but I get put in that box because I'm an anarcho-communist. So I don't really believe in the spectrum. So I've said that a million times, we'll say it again. Okay, and also the American politics, the electoral politics, aren't even real politics. They're like a popularity game that they play to convince us that we should we should go along with it, right? That we have a voice. But in reality, like, politics is, when we talk about what is happening in Palestine or what is even happening between Ukraine and Russia, is geopolitics. It's what we're talking about when we're talking about what's happening with the incarceration system. When we're talking about how people can't afford to go and get medical treatment or afford their food or afford rent. Those are politics, right? Because it's a material functioning of power and people being deprived of power and put into marginalization. That's what politics are really about. When we talk about electoral politics, that stuff is no cap, just a facade. So now I get to the point where I want to engage with y'all's comments. I want to hear what y'all were thinking about what I had to say, what I just presented, and was just chop it up about it. You know what I mean? So yeah. Damn. All right. I'm sorry. The new recent one, I'm working my way up. Okay, let's put this up there without reading it. Bernie has secured a small sock den position in the Democrat, which isn't ideal if we want to liberation. Oh my God, I hate reading out loud, bro. I'm sorry. He might have indoctrinated Marxism or mainstream, but that's about it. Introduced Marxism to the mainstream, but that's about it. Bernie has secured a small sock den. Oh yes, the same one repeated for some reason. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing is he got a bunch of the sock dams to get on board to feel like they had agency within the system, right? And what he ended up doing is like recruiting some people to the Democratic Party, recruiting even more people into electoralism, thinking that there will be something that will be achieved from electoralism, which is that's a problem, right? Because it's not going to actually be achieved. But I get why people want to see hope, right? People want to see something that can be created beneficial without a full-on revolution, without having to drop the institution completely, to be able to move without there being a risk of death or a risk of violence. But I just don't think that's reality. I mean, I think, I guess it was Mao, but I always quote Yui because that's who I got it from. But war is politics with bloodshed. Politics is war without bloodshed. And that's no cap, right? And yes, I am an anarchist, and I still would quote Mao and read and study because I'm an anarcho-communist, and I believe there's a lot of value from a lot of different people. That's why I don't be like, you're tanky and blah, 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 or whatever, because I think there's a lot of people bring value. Sometimes I disagree with people. I disagree, and I'll air that out. But yeah, that is that's a real factor. That is hella true, and it's not cap. You know what I mean? That we're dealing with warfare. We're talking about like low intensity warfare. When we're talking about political warfare, we're dealing with warfare, and we gotta think about it as such. You know what I mean? Let's go up here real quick. I'm hopping around, y'all. So, hey, Big V, is not Cop City, Atlanta perfect evidence that the corporate state is preparing for the crisis in capitalism by militarizing police? Yeah, I think they've been preparing for it though. I mean, they've been slowly over the years, over my life, militarizing the police. I think they're preparing faster and faster because they realize it's unstable. I think the uprising really made them comprehend how unstable their position is inside the power structure, inside the global political situation will not stay the same. Not only is like we see like China and them doing their thing, economy growing while ours is collapsing, but we see people inside the U.S. imperialist country, the imperialist core, losing their patience and realizing that we're never going to get the dreams that we're promised. And the thing is, those dreams, even if we got them right, we're just buy-offs. And those buy-offs, the price that we're going to pay is not just like in this nation, not just in the third world, but a global price. We're already paying it, honestly, and it's going to get worse. But yeah. Okay, hold up. Well, also, let's be real. Politics is almost predetermined. I think something like 80% of all voters don't affect the outcome at all. Yeah, that's true. Shit. Sorry for me reading like that, y'all. I'm dyslexic and shit. Because of how the electoral system functions. Yeah. or at least the presidential election. I say the electoral system as a whole, because like I was mentioning, like when you get to bigger cities, especially, economics control who's going to be able to run, who's going to be able to be the person to get elected into office. Even when you come from a local organizer, become politicians, they become sellouts. And then you also people who were already on some fuck shit. Like I know everybody talks about Kashama Swan, but ask anybody in Seattle about that person. It ain't gonna be good. Nobody got nothing good to say about them except for her followers specifically. All the organizers like, man. Because you know what I mean, and you can find pictures of me and her in the same space, videos of me and her on press conferences and stuff. So I'm not just saying it like out of my ass, like I know the person, but you know, people who get in those positions to become politicians are already inclined to be against the people for the institution, even when they claim to not be. You know. Okay, the score I'm sick. I see you. You cannot vote the corporate oligarchs out of power. Exactly. I feel like you're talking shit. I'm like, you can't vote. No, I can't vote. I don't even want to vote. But yeah, exactly. You can't vote the people who actually control this nation out of power, and that's hella real. And so I think one of the things that people don't think about is that. And it's frustrating because I feel like these are lessons we've learned over time, over like hundreds of years. All right. More. I won't go that far. It comes to Bernie, but even his position on Ukraine crisis isn't very good. Well, here's the thing. Bernie, just like Joe Biden's, was a signer of the super predator bill. You know what I mean? So like he actively targeted our communities, or my community at least. And I definitely say he was a centrist at best. He definitely wasn't a leftist. And like I feel like, look at the position, I guess he's closer to like just straight right at this point. But I mean, I think the what it comes down to is people see from an American's perspective, right? But they forget that America is a far right nation, like far right. It's not even like kind of right in the far right nation. So our spectrum of what we think is right and left is a lie, right? It's not really what would fall into leftists. Like when we talk about the Democrats being left, bro, when we talk about the Green Party being left, it's pretty much like, nah, bro, nah. But it's because we don't have a good lens to see it from. Our lens is based off of the place we grew up in, you know what I mean? And so I think that skews what we consider right and left a lot. Even just hold on. Yeah, even just exactly. It's better to go to their house and knock on their door and be like, "Y'all got a problem," than just to vote at all. Like, just for real. Let's see. Interrupt her when they're trying to get money passed. When they're trying to get money passed through, instead of voting, go interrupt them and stop them from being able to get money passed for what they want, and then they'll listen. That's literally what we were doing when we shut down like like $500 million precinct. No, it's not. It wasn't expensive. It was like $190 million precinct or something like that. In Seattle, it was like a cop city in Seattle. They tried to build it out there, and we shut that shit down. But it's because we started attacking them before they get the finances approved and everything else. And so they backed up. They backed out. All right, boom, boom. I think I read that one, so I took it off. No, yeah. Okay. All right. So, I'm not promising a super long stream, so I'm gonna go on the next subject because I've gone through like the chats already, and so we'll move on to PC politics, right? All right. And so next time I think I'm gonna get some like videos and stuff too eventually, but right now I just wanted to start off with just talking, and I want to have guests too as well, so you'll see other changes each week. Boom. Let's see. Let's get over here to notes. All right. Now I want to talk to you about PC politics and the culture and the culture war. You know what I mean? So let's assess political correctness a little bit. So one thing I've noticed is that when we focus on trigger words. It reminds me a lot of like church, right? Like, so when we go to church, right, there's a lot of like respectability politics. Don't say God's name in vain. don't say this, don't say that. And uh the problem is, uh, church is very right wing. And I think a lot of the trying to censor people's language and like stop them from like saying specific trigger words is kind of right wing thing to do. Like socially right wing for sure. It's socially conservative. And you know, I that's why I always tell people I'm definitely a dirtbag left because I'm not socially conservative. I do not believe in that. I do believe that like people's concepts, ideologies, and ideas can be very harmful, and I'm more for attacking that than trigger words. Now don't get it wrong. There are some words, you know, and everybody's gonna point out the N bomb when I let someone just say drop a hard R. Like, no, of course not. I also wouldn't let somebody call one by the C word either without getting like bopped up a little bit. You can't call my you can't call my homegirl B without like getting bopped up. You know, what I mean, there's things that aren't gonna fly, but it's not so much of about PC-ness is like I've said it multiple times, like fighting words, like about respecting people, because you could also say things that don't violate any of those arbitrary rules. All right, what's the last thing y'all heard? I just noticed it got muted for some reason. Yo, sorry y'all, sorry y'all. Did y'all what y'all heard last year? I went on an epic rant, and I don't know what y'all heard last. How long was I gone? I'm sorry. Was I gone for like 5 minutes? I'm sorry, y'all. That was wild. I don't know what happened. I was on an epic rant. And I don't know, man. It was epic. Ah, how did I lose all of that? That's very upsetting. I don't know what happened, y'all. 10 minutes. All right, we're just go over this whole thing over again. Y'all down for that? I'm just go over this all over again. I don't know what happened. I don't know why that happened like that. Shoot, that's whack. All right, go back over the notes real quick. So I was talking about how these rules, right? These constructs and these rules do nothing but to conceal the wrongs of the people that are privileged and marginalized people who are already oppressed and marginalized. Further marginalize them because they don't meet that bar. We start all the way over. All right. Damn, I don't know if it's gonna be as good. I was going in too. I'm really upset about that. I was going in. I didn't the whole time. Oh, hold on. I know Jenna was calling me for telling me that either. Oh God. All right. All the way from the beginning. So, assessing political correctness. That's what I started with. My God, I'll do this whole thing over again. Olive was gonna be as fire. So I was going in. All right. Okay, so assessing political correctness. The problem with political correctness, and this might be shorter than I did last time. I'm sorry, y'all. I just doing it twice in a row. It's gonna be a mess. But political correctness is utilized as a way of further marginalize all the further marginalize already marginalized peoples, right? So we talk about the proletariat and non-proletariat being rough around the edges and coming in with vulgarity, which vulgarity by the way means the speech of the common people, but coming in with vulgarity, and then we make all these rules that are kind of like laws that further alienate people. You know what I mean? That further push people out of the spaces, especially marginalized people, while at the same time giving cover to a lot of more elitist people, more privileged people, and predators, right? Because as long as they can jump through the hoops of the identity politics, right, they can conceal themselves. They can conceal their bad behavior. They conceal the toxic, damaging, white supremacist, patriarchal, homophobic, transphobic behaviors because they're able to jump through these hoops to make themselves look like they have a veneer of righteousness, a veneer of purity, while being able to alienate a lot of people that are most oppressed, a lot of people that are poor, who might be a lot more rough around the edges, that don't really have the time or the energy to worry about speaking in a way that makes people happy. And instead of us focusing on the things that are really impactful, that really do a lot of damage, like ideologies and concepts, we focus on trigger words. We focus on things that aren't going to be in any way beneficial towards moving out of an oppressive nature and an oppressive space. We focus on the things that are so shallow, and harp on them. They want to harp on microaggressions. Look, I'm not saying people ain't obnoxious with their microaggressions. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is it's a diversion from the main focus of fighting oppression materially. Materially looks like, for example, fighting white supremacy is fighting the incarceration system, pushing forward housing for all, being able to make sure that people get medical care that are being denied, especially say Black folks who don't get medical treatment taken seriously by those doctors, right? Looking at the material circumstances that cause these oppressions instead of the language that everybody looks at and it's easier to attack. It's because the answers to, man, I feel like I'm not killing this like I was last time, but oh well. The answers that we're looking at, right, that will make a difference are about the material changes. But the answers that people focus on are just things that are easy to fight. Things that, like, oh, I can just talk mess to the person and cancel them, or try to get them canceled by a bunch of people and play popularity contests, versus going to the root of the source of the violence, right? Going to the source of racial oppression, going to the source of gender oppression. And that's these structures. It's what happens to people. It's, instead of making support networks to the oppressed going through it, we just police each other. And I know in theory, it sounds like a good idea, but the outcome I see is not positive. It isn't removing problematic, dangerous people. It isn't making a safer place for the more oppressed, for those who are most marginalized. In fact, a lot of times it makes it a less safe place. When we think about where this idea comes from, is socially conservatism. It's a socially conservative idea to police people's language. Like, process that. It is socially conservative to police people's language. It comes from a lot of the elite having certain language that they would consider acceptable. It reminds me a lot of church, right? Like, don't take God's name in vain. There's certain words you shouldn't say. And I don't think those examples are great examples to take it from. In fact, the first examples of PC-ness were from right-wingers. That's the first example I had in my life. The right-wingers were on some PC shit. It wasn't a PC based off the values we believe in, but yet it still was that. So hold up. Let me look this real quick. Look at my notes so I can try to get my flow back. Damn, why did they have to do that to me? Okay, that's all. So the culture war. We talked a lot about PC politics, and let's talk about the culture war and how PC politics and other politics play into the culture war, play into whether you're talking about the manosphere or whether you're talking about leftism. And one thing, one of my former partners and good friend noticed is that the culture war is a psyop. I know that sounds wild. I know that sounds like some conspiratorial thing, but the person, you gotta take my word for it, is a very grounded person. They're not somebody who gets into experiences or anything weird like that. But the thing is, the role it played was to divide us, right? To break us down based off of our differences. And it doesn't address any of the material circumstances that are causing these oppressions. What it does instead is pits the oppressed against the oppressed, right? It makes us fight for, I don't know, who's the most oppressed and who's oppressing who, right? It makes us go back and forth and like, oh, the dating is worse for men than it is for women. No, it's worse for women than it is for men. Oh no, no, we gotta. You're destroying the modern society. No, we need to move. There's back and forth where we really lose the point of the dialogue in the first place, right? So we're not putting forward communism or socialism. We're having a battle over identities, over these people who just want to be seen and just want to be heard and just want to make money and grift off of sowing division. Now, do I think that means you should let people disrespect you, disrespect your people, talk crazy? No, man, there's fighting words. Fighting words are real. That's the real thing. Like, you say certain things, there's going to be consequences. You know what I mean? However, the hyper focusing on it and the hypo focusing on more serious issues is a big problem. So we talk about all these inappropriate things, assholes say. We talk about the manosphere, but we ain't handling the perverts and pieces of shit in our own communities. Hear me on that. We ain't handling that shit. And that's what we need to be doing. We ain't handling the fact that police be smooth predators. Well, we ain't looking out for the sex workers who have consistently faced not only people from more privileged communities preying upon them, but the police themselves, right? We ain't addressing protecting queer folks from queer bashing. We ain't addressing the fence against trans folks. We ain't even addressing the root of the problems where we are perpetuating that violence. And none of this I just said is good as the last one. So let's just talk about it. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. I went in last time, and this time wasn't as fluid because this wasn't scripted. It was just notes. And sometimes I just get in my pocket, and for some reason it muted me. I don't know why it muted me. That was hot. But yeah. Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Fighting words is crucial. Like, I think we gotta look at that. Fighting words is completely different than like PC stuff, right? Because here's the thing. Fighting words is more than just the certain trigger words. Because like, yeah, you ain't gonna drop the hard R on the. You ain't gonna drop an M-bomb in the hard R without catching hands. You ain't gonna call any women I'm in present with the C word or the B word for that matter. Even though I don't even think like bitch is a slur like that. But if you call her that, you're gonna catch her fucking hands. Like, but that's because it's fighting words, right? But also at the same time, there's things that they can say that are completely technically PC, but are so disrespectful that you're gonna catch these hands too. And you didn't say any of the rule violations. And I think the problem with rules in general is that these arbitrary lines that we put in the sand based off specific people's cultural upbringings. That's also another problem with PC culture in general too, is it's coming from the concept of a privileged upbringing. It's like an academic concept mixed with like, I don't know, social conservatism, and it's used to be able to police people, but it isn't actually effective at making change. It's just these arbitrary rules and saying based off the most privileged people's concepts versus talking to working class and poor people and seeing what they really feel about it. The people saying what they really feel. Because I think the nuance, in my experience, most people feel like I do, fighting words. You say whatever you want, but you start saying some fighting words disrespectful like that, you'll catch some hands. Like, you won't be welcome in spaces, but it's not about like policing people. It's not about like the microscope on everybody, So I got examples. Just to visualize this bit more, people, because I know you said you aren't talking about slurs. You're talking about well, here's the thing is I'm saying vulgarity and slurs are like in the same thing. Like a slur is something that's vulgar, right? Now I think there's certain words that are fighting words off top, but what I'm saying is we have like these microscopes where they're looking for every single reason why to be upset, right? And look for every single reason to find a word that justifies alienating somebody. And a lot of times it gets used against the oppressed. I think more what I'm talking about is concepts. I think it's more important to focus on the concepts that people are like. People are pushing white supremacy, when people are pushing femicide or patriarchy, when people are pushing those concepts, I think it's more important to fight the concepts than to fight a singular word. Now, I'm not telling anybody how to react. I'm just offering another perspective on it because I think it is way we existing now is divisive. I think we should just call it on the microaggressions. Personally, in my opinion, like just be like, yeah, people are gonna be stupid. It's just gonna be how it is. They're gonna be dumb and assholes, and that is what they're gonna do. They're gonna say some bigoted bullshit, and they're not gonna give a fuck. But then judging more off the character of the whole that person, right? And you don't have to fuck with anybody. Like I said, you never have to fuck with anybody. If you just won't fuck with because I just don't like the way they look at me. Like, just be real. But I don't think that it is conducive to like word police. Like I said, I think there's certain things that people know better. There's certain things that people know better, right? You know better than call a woman the CUNT word. Like, I don't even say that word. I'm not, and I'm like I said, I'm dirtbag left. I don't even say that word. So, um, you know better than call a woman a bitch. You know better than call me a nigger. You know better than the like. At this point, like we didn't used to, and that's real. And when stuff had to grow and learn and understand, but it was really again the concept of understanding queerness. But like the f bomb, these things you learn, right? Were fighting words. I don't agree with everybody on what words are slurs versus fighting for. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people would disagree on the R word. As somebody who's like literally affected because I haven't learned disabilities, I think that's kind of not comparable. Like, because as someone who has intersections, when you compare that to the M bomb or the F word specifically, it doesn't hold that same weight and power. I don't think so. That's my analysis on it. But again, it's everybody set their own boundaries, right? Because if it's a boundary for you, it's valid, right? Because despite no matter how much trauma I went through behind, being labeled like a retarded kid, literally is how I was I was framed that I was in special ed and everything, right? So no matter how much I went through, it's not going to be the same as everybody else's. You know what I mean? So I might feel differently, but everybody gets the valid right to set their own boundaries. So that's not what I'm talking about, but I am talking about how we do it as a culture, how we maneuver as a culture. If somebody doesn't want to fuck with somebody because they do things that they can't have in their space, that is valid no matter what it is. It could be you motherfucking pick your teeth wrong. It's valid. People can set whatever boundaries they want. I just am talking more about like the culture of our society, the culture of the left. You know what I mean? And how it's damaging. I'm not talking about individuals. Individuals should actively utilize the right to set their boundaries wherever they feel they need to. If you get what I'm saying. But yeah. And also, I think we should focus more on supporting people that are going through trauma than trying to alienate people for not being up to snuff. If you know what I mean, for not being up to snuff in people's eyes. But like, also, it's the question of whose eyes is this? Who gets to decide this? Because it's not the press people deciding this, it's academics. And that's a problem. That is a problem for me. People who literally be some of the most oppressive people. The people who literally were eugenicists. The class of people that were literally the eugenicists get to dictate what is problematic to say around, like, for example, retarded or the N-bomb. The people who were literally the eugenicists that were aiming and doing the Tuskegee Project. The people that class of people deciding it rubs me wrong. Personally, I do not fuck with it. I do not like that. Now, again, like I said, more empathy, less sensitivity, and that's how I feel about it personally. But individuals should always be able to set their boundaries without a doubt. Because if I don't, like I said, if I don't like you, if I don't like the way you just carry yourself around me, I'm not gonna fuck with you. So I'm not gonna tell nobody else that to fuck with anybody else either. I'm ranting a little bit, but okay. Okay. There's a lot more that I want to see. Like, definitely always support for nut bombs. Support fight toxic prisons all the time, every time. We shut down prisons out here. We doing the thing. You know what I mean? Support I don't know, like the solidarity, like the I forget the name of it, but in Albuquerque, there's a lot of dope work. Look up Slinda. I had if you look on Non-Compete, you can find a live where I did with Slinda, and they're doing a lot of work to support the community. Getting people into housing, getting people into like furniture and stuff, and it's all coming from community supported things. So that's one of those things. Cuba Troll for self-defense. There's a lot. John Brown Gun Club, another self-defense, they were solid in supporting a lot of movements that were making in Seattle a while back. The list goes on and on. There's a lot. I don't want to just say that these are the only ones, because they're not. There's a lot of dope orgs out there, but they're usually the ones that aren't very known, so they do the best work. Okay, Mbako. I don't know what that Mbako means. I don't know, man. Okay, that's valid. It's difficult though, isn't it? After all, who gets to decide what is and isn't fighting words? I mean, the person who is offended. But I don't think it should be a cultural thing. But like, the thing is, like, also, you're gonna know. I mean, I feel like there's a degree of knowing that happens, right? Like, would you fight over this? If you wouldn't fight over this, I think it's generally over. It's generally not worth the energy at that point. You know what I mean? Like, I guess that's my question. Would you risk getting punched in the face to punch someone in the face for saying the shit? You know what I mean? I'm not advocating it, so don't come at me, TOS. But like, I guess that's my like, would you? Because there's certain things I would definitely would, but or how other things I'm just like, no, bro, like, I'm not getting in a fight over this. I'm not like arguing with this person either. You know what I mean? Like, that's just waste of time, waste of energy, and it you know. I think one of the big things, I think, if we change it from a grassroots level, from the bottom, the things that are the source of the problems, if we change that, I think we will end up we're in a world where not only does the slurs not matter anymore, do they not really affect people, but also people won't even have a reason to use them. Like, people won't even find justification to use them at that point. You know what I mean? So, and how to strike a balance between being contentious of each other needs without being panopticon. Um, I mean, I think you just ask for like, how can you be supportive, right? I think it's just been like reaching out to people and being like, "Yo, I see you going through it. I see that motherfucker might have like came at you sideways. How you doing? How you feeling about it? You know what I mean?" And to talk to them, I think that's way more important than to call somebody out. Because like, when something like really affects me, for example, and it's not easy to affect me, but say it really affects me, I don't need you to defend me. I can go piece them in myself, like, if I need to, right? I need someone to give a fuck about me. And maybe somebody else might have something different. They might need someone to defend themselves, but then you should know that relationship first. You should have that relationship to know what that is actually. Do you need to get on this motherfucker's head? And sometimes it is. I think using our own judgment is important. I think using collective judgment and community judgment is important. I think there's no hard lines. I think hard lines are a problem. I think rules, as in this hard line, this one rule fits all situation, is a problem, right? You know what I mean? And I don't think it's going to be beneficial. But if we focus on being empathetic first and being there for our people, for our community, I think it's much better and much more beneficial than as much aggressiveness as we can put forward towards someone that hurt people care about. Now, don't get wrong. Sometimes aggressiveness is needed. I'm not saying this never is. I'm not saying that. So, but yeah, it does seem more helpful to fight concepts if I'm understanding you correctly. Yeah, exactly. Fight the concepts. Like, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, it's way more beneficial to fight the concepts than it is to like fight words. You know what I mean? The concepts are what perpetuate the words, anyways. Coming out of these concepts that people believe in. Like, I was about to have a live with somebody that was, I don't know if we still are. I don't know how I feel about them, and I'm sure I don't know how I feel about me. But I was about to have a live with somebody about Black women representation, and she went super transphobic, and I was like, "Nah, we ain't doing this live now." You know what I mean? So it's not an easy thing. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna be real. It's real. It can be difficult, but I think trying to like deal with the concept. And she wasn't saying any trigger words per se, but she was definitely saying a lot of trigger concepts. But I'm glad we have some of those. But yeah. Anyways, I kind of want to tangent with that, but. I think collectively how we respond is empathy first. And if we need to make space so people don't have to be around each other, we should do so. We should look at conflict de-escalation as like a way of dealing with a lot of these things instead of like accelerating the conflict. And I'm saying this as a shit stirrer. If you know me, you know I'm a shit stirrer. I begin up in my bag for like when I feel like people out of pocket. You know what I mean? I'll be stirring some shit up, crucial. But I definitely see the need, and it's also critical I have myself because I'm inclined to shit stir. I mean, I don't think over as petty of things, but still stuff that is relatively petty. You know what I mean? So I just critique myself as well. I'm not saying I'm above it, and that's the thing is we all aren't above it. We're all gonna say problematic things, and we're also gonna sometimes be the person that be like overreacting to shit. We're gonna be on both sides of the coin for like ever. You know what I mean? Yeah. Who's that? Marion's Williamson. No, hit me. I don't think I know. Maybe I do, but like that name ain't ringing a bell right now. Which is fair because what you're getting at is I'll put it up here. I'm reading it. Why not? Which is fair because what you're getting at is this idea of how we tend to adopt retribution on behalf of people without their consent. Yeah, that's a fact. Especially yo. Don't get me wrong. I think women do a lot of fuck shit too, but especially men when it comes to that shit. Men and people that are mad, we fucking do that going after motherfuckers. I've been a victim of doing that when I care about people, especially when it's serious, right? So, but yeah, it's really important to have the person's consent because you don't, even if it's someone's abuser, you don't want to be going after them without their consent because it's not going to work out good. It's going to make things worse. I've fallen into that trap, and I might fall into it again because I'm very protective of people I care about, but I try to work on it every day because I don't want to overstep. And also, one of the things you learn is when you go after the person that's abuser, for example, I'm using abuser as an example, right? And they didn't want you to, that can alienate you out their support network. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times people who are abused still care about their abuser in ways, and you can't, until they done, you can't make them be done. So this should just be stuff gets complicated. You know what I mean? I know I went to something a little heavier than you might have been talking about, but it's really important to definitely have consent before you move. And how we tend to prioritize that moralizing process over aiding people suffering from the trauma and getting them exactly. And we need to put empathy first. And okay, instead of revenge, instead of sensitivity, focus on empathy and support. Exactly. But isn't the PC argument that people need the culture to help them set and reinforce their personal boundaries? I think people need support setting boundaries, but I don't think PC culture helps with that. I think we need to be supportive of people in our community, be able to set boundaries, just period. And the thing, I think PC culture, again, is focusing on the wrong thing because you got someone setting boundaries around trigger words, but then they're still allowing someone to be in their space because they don't know how to communicate it in this person about their space. They're being extremely emotionally abusive, for example, much less physically abusive or something like that. So I don't think it works. Whether that's the intent can be cool, but I don't think it works. I think it works counterproductive. You know what I mean? I just haven't seen it work at all. So I've been around a long ass time, man. I don't think I would have seen it work by now if it works. Well, we get most of that due to Tucson, except community defense is building though. Okay. Personal boundary setting is much easier when the culture standard supports you. Well, here's the thing: I don't think it's PC culture standard that's going to support them. I think a culture of empathy and a culture of taking a role and stepping up in the people that you're in their lives to be able to support them will be what changes. That's the change that we need in the culture, not PC politics. You know what I mean? We need the people that lead with empathy, lead with care, and to step into being there for their community and standing for their people. You know what I mean? Standing for their neighbors, standing for their loved ones, standing for their brothers, sisters, friends, community members, all that. I think that's where the cultural shift needs to happen, not the PC stuff. The PC stuff doesn't do anything beneficial. In fact, a lot of times it pushes people out that are some of the more supportive people because they're not PC. Because they're gonna say some shit, you're gonna be like, "Oh, bro." But when they come to actually be there for people, they're there for people. They show up for people. They listen, and even if they say something they're not supposed to, they're gonna listen, take it seriously, even if they don't change right away. But they're gonna be trying because they're like, "Oh, damn, I don't want to hurt this person. I care about them." And that's what we need more of, not hard lines everywhere. You know what I mean? I would fight over Palestine. bets 100%. Not that it would help them. I mean, hey, every person fighting helps. You know what I mean? Even if it's not like on the front line. If you're really fighting, at least. Conscious. My bad. I meant conscious. Okay. Okay. Well, that was. Well, thank you. All right. Damn, I'm really behind on these comments. I'm trying to get through them. I'm not gonna lie. I've been trying to get more involved in supporting direct action and other helpful projects, but I get social anxiety like a motherfucker. Any advice? Okay, it's not gonna be fun advice. Just do it, man. The more it gives you anxiety, jump out in it. You know what I mean? Just jump. Like, it's like when you're worried about the water being cold, just jump into the fucker. Just go pow head first. Full force. I be having social anxiety. I've been known to give really good speeches at times. That's why I'm really sad that like that whole blank spot happened, because I was in my pocket. But hey, it happens. I want y'all to see the best of me, because I don't feel like y'all see the best of me most of the time. You see, I might be come off good, but sometimes I get in that pocket. You know what I mean? But yeah, just jump into it. Just take risks. Just get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's the best advice I can give you. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And it's not easy. It's gonna take fall on your face a little bit. You know what I mean? Shit, you should see me when I first started rapping. Followed on my face all the time. Yeah, maybe that's a good barometer. Is this person saying something out of ignorance or really supporting a vile concept? Exactly. I think that's crucial to look at it that way. Again, I will never tell you who you got to let in your life. That is nothing I will ever tell you as an individual to do. It's not fair for anybody to tell you that. Nobody should ever tell you who you got to let in your life. But as a community level, I think we didn't maneuver certain way. You know what I mean? And yeah. And also PC politics, like I said, it allows people to go unaccountable by hiding behind PC politics, because they can jump through all the hoops, but then they put really problematic concepts forward. And sometimes they use PC politics to reinforce the problematic concepts. It's a thing, so that's another issue I see popping up right now. I back Black radical feminism, but the community that growing has anti-LGBT pockets. Yes. Look, anti-LGBT pockets, anti-Black pockets, anti a lot of things. And here's the thing, and I'm not gonna go too deep into it because I'm gonna do a whole video on it, but we gotta just stop romanticizing people, because all of us are contradictions and none of us are more righteous than the other. You know what I mean? It's not a thing. You know what I mean? We all do fucked up stuff. That means, and especially it's not a thing based off identity. If there is someone who's more righteous, it's based off their character, just who they are as a person, not their identity. So I think, but that's a whole other video. I'm going to get into it. Romanticization is a problem. People need to stop romanticizing people, period. That means the lumber proletariat. That means motherfuckers like me. That means Black women. That means brown women. That means brown men. That means definitely means white folks. Don't ever romanticize white people. Just don't do it. Just don't. But like, romanticization is dangerous. It is very, very dangerous and isn't helpful at all. It leads to a lot of unaccountability. She just announced a president. Wait, who? She announced a president run. Since you're talking about not voting, well, I wouldn't know because I'm not voting. I'm announcing for my candidate that I support. Their name is Nobody, so make sure to write Nobody into the ballot. Nobody for president. All right. Jays. A good point about not doing something without their consent. Yeah, I mean, bro, I'm saying, I've learned it multiple times from mistakes, because I'll be wanting to protect people I care about, and sometimes I jump off that bridge when I should listen more. It's happened. I try a lot less than it used to, but it's happened and it can happen again, especially if I get emotions. If you hurt somebody I love, I tend to get in my emotions at that point. It's not, I don't get in my emotions very easily, but you start hurting people I care about, I get in my emotions. You know what I mean? I get really upset about that. Um, but it's something we always gotta work on, and sometimes we're gonna fail. Sometimes our love for somebody's gonna overpower it and we're gonna make mistakes. But then we gotta own those mistakes. We gotta be like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. We gotta like just acknowledge it and try to be better, you know. I always and well, by the way, but don't be too hard on yourself either, because this shit ain't easy, especially when we're talking about like abuse and shit and the people you care about and you're trying to protect them from like an abuser or something. It's not easy to like control your emotions in those situations. It's very difficult. Um, I always try not to give more energy to a problem than the person directly affected by it. Good point. And that's hard though too. It's hard though too, because when it gets serious problems, it's really difficult to not. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to abuse and shit, it's hard for me not to be like psychotically looking at someone's partner who I know abuses them, and like just be like, "Yo, I'm here for you," when you're trying to leave. But every time I see that motherfucker, I want a piece of me. You know what I mean? Yeah. She's a Bernie essential. Okay. Well, then she's a Bernie essentially. I definitely wouldn't support her. I mean, I wouldn't support her anyway. She run for president or period politician. I don't support politicians, period, to be real with you. I've met more people that share levels of social anxiety when I started organizing than anywhere else. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I'm also probably autistic, so I have a lot of that, social anxiety. Period. I hate all the markers of autism. I just realized I've been looking into it a lot, honestly. But hey, uh, anyways, if you have social anxiety, by the way, make sure to ally with people who will help you through it. Bet you don't have to be alone. That's facts, facts, facts. All right. A person who's there to respect you and your need. A person who's there to respect you and your needs makes all the difference. A point of comfort can really help. That's facts. But people just in your corner, you know what I mean? I appreciate it. All right. Social anxiety could mean you think more about social dynamics and the world in general, thinking person's disease. What? Oh, I don't know what the person's disease, but I agree with you about the first part. I don't know what that person's disease means, but yeah, I'm one of those people when social anxiety. I think a lot about how I affect people a lot. And I think it's also because I used to be really oblivious. So I had a partner who like pressured me. I think to a fault though at this point. Like I want to like be less of it at this point, but to be very conscientious about how everybody perceived. And the reason I say it to a fault is because now I catch myself apologizing when I shouldn't apologize, because I'm always not trying to inconvenience people or something, even when I should try to inconvenience them. Like I remember when I was having a heart problem, like I literally stood in line while my heart was racing instead of going straight up to the counter. And then the person at the counter was like, "All right, no, you need to, if this ever happens again, you just cut in line and you just do the thing." But yeah, so yeah. Hold up. Let's see this. If you're a deep thinker, you're likely to be afflicted by social anxiety. Not always, but often. Yeah, I definitely have it too. I have social anxiety for sure. And everybody thinks I'm. It's wild because people think I'm super outgoing or something. I'm like, bro, not really, not really. Um, I'm not the super like. I'm definitely an introvert. I'm not an extrovert. But I can fake it sometimes. Sometimes I can fake it. Well, I think this is one more comment. Getting respect, demanding respect starts with boundaries. Exactly. 100%. All right, so this was my first Fractured Society. Let me know what you thought of this in the comment section. We're gonna go ahead and bring it to an end. Let me know what you thought about my takes, what you thought about the stream. Go ahead and clown me for the like blank moment where everything, all the sound went out for whatever reason. Yeah. And we'll be back next Monday. I might have to shoot the time because I actually went and accidentally interfered with my FTP meeting because I cannot track time for shit. Can't keep a schedule for nothing. But yeah, we'll be back next week. Might be a little bit earlier or a little bit later, but we'll be back next week. No, it doesn't be earlier. It can't be later because also, yes, before I leave, I gotta say this. Make sure to tune in literally a little over an hour to Breadcast, you know what I mean, with Luna and EJ on Luna Oi's channel. And yeah. And you know, EJ's from Non-Compete. So, and also check out all my, make sure to subscribe if you haven't, because they're always unsubscribing people. And check out my last main big videos, specifically two streamer or two calls on one streamer. So yeah. All right. I'm about to be out of here, and thanks for rocking with me, and I'll see y'all next week. Peace.